If you've tried setting a boundary with a borderline partner, you already know it rarely feels like a healthy conversation. Instead, it feels like igniting a fuse in a very small room where the blowback is an absolute certainty. To understand why a simple request for space turns into a catastrophe, we have to look beneath the surface behavior and look directly at the brain's emotional threat center, the amygdala. In a neurotypical brain, the amygdala helps assess danger, but in a BPD brain, this alarm system is severely hyperactive. It's perpetually stuck on red, unable to filter minor stressors. Consequently, incoming information bypasses the logical frontal lobe. It intercepts your request for respect as a massive existential threat. The amygdala hijacks the nervous system, locking out your partner's ability to think clearly. You are no longer dealing with a relationship disagreement. You have triggered a primal, biological survival response that cannot be reasoned with. While brain chemistry explains the intensity, we have to understand the specific psychological wound driving the alarm, the terror of abandonment. Because a borderline individual often lacks a solid, independent sense of self, they rely on the presence of others to feel stable. Any limit placed upon them feels like the opening act of total desertion. This clinical text highlights why this happens, defining boundaries as invisible separations between yourself and others. A BPD brain, however, relies on a rule that there should be no boundaries. To them, enmeshment is safety. Space equals danger. When you try to create that separation, you instantly become the source of their mortal danger. They are forced to fight back to secure their emotional survival. Your partner is fighting for emotional survival. Until you act on that reality, you will lose this battle and suffer the fallout. The result of your boundary is a behavioral explosion. It manifests as white-hot rage, hysteria, or sometimes a punishing, icy, silent treatment. These extreme emotional displays are a subconscious tactic known as an extinction burst. The goal is to overwhelm your defenses, obliterate the boundary you just set, and force the environment back into their control. This is where splitting happens. The moment you hold your ground, you shift in their mind. You go from being idealized as their perfect savior to being devalued as a villain. To avoid the crushing internal shame of feeling defective, the BPD partner utilizes projection. They take the blame for the conflict and aggressively project it onto you. Suddenly, you are characterized as cruel or abusive. Reality is twisted so thoroughly that your healthy limit is framed as an act of malicious harm against them. Their rage is a defense mechanism designed specifically to make you feel their pain. They want you to feel so uncomfortable that you drop the boundary. Your capitulation is their ultimate goal. This dynamic explains why standard couples therapy and traditional communication scripts fail in these moments. You try to use I statements, and the situation only gets worse. Conventional relationship advice assumes both parties are operating with logic, mutual respect, and a low baseline of emotional reactivity. But a hijacked nervous system interprets any compromise as a literal threat to its existence. The smooth loop of conventional negotiation bounces completely off their defensive wall. You cannot use logic to negotiate with an active survival response. To survive this encounter intact, you must abandon the conventional relationship playbook. We must redefine the concept of a boundary. A conventional boundary asks the other person to change their behavior or agree to a rule. Instead, you need trauma-informed limits. This is a framework where you dictate solely what you will do when a line is crossed. It requires zero permission or agreement from your partner. As this clinical text clearly states, you hold power primarily over what you will do. Your only real leverage lies in controlling your own actions, not in policing their emotional reactions. Once you state that limit, you must employ the gray rock method. This is your operational protocol for surviving the emotional storm that follows. Gray rock means maintaining a flat affect and displaying zero emotional reactivity. You refuse to justify, argue, defend, or explain your position. You become as unreactive as a gray rock. By completely removing your emotional reaction, you starve the extinction burst. Without your reciprocal energy to feed on, the conflict cannot sustain itself. A boundary without a strictly enforced consequence is just a suggestion. It will be ignored. you have to attach concrete actions to your limits. That means physically leaving the room, ending the phone call, or taking a structured break from the relationship the moment the line is crossed. These consequences must be executed with gentle resolve, every single time, without exception and without apology. Enforcing trauma-informed limits restores your command over your physical and emotional environment. You are no longer trying to manage the other person. You are protecting yourself. To build your boundary plan, use the guide and workbook located in the description at traumaunbonded.com. If this deep dive helped you, please like, share, and subscribe to The Explainer.